Britain's government has tightened travel restrictions amidst concerns about the spread of the Omicron coronavirus, saying all travelers arriving in England will need to take a COVID-19 test before they board their flights. Health Secretary Sajid Javid said the new rules will apply from 4 a.m. on Tuesday. Javid also added Nigeria to the UK's travel red list, which means that arrivals from there will be banned except for UK and Irish residents, and those travelers must isolate in designated quarantine facilities. He said there was a significant number of Omicron cases linked to travel with Nigeria, with 27 cases recorded in England. And Britain's selective red listing of Nigeria and South Africa and their largest Commonwealth islands in the fight against the Omicron variant is generating criticisms globally. In a policy many have described as racist, misguided, and discriminatory, Britain's ban on Nigerians from traveling to the United Kingdom, while allowing many Western countries where the Omicron is also present, is sparking fury among Nigerians across the country, who are stoutly condemning British government's action, accusing it of racism. Expectedly, many Nigerians are livid and have started to urge their leaders to reciprocate the poor treatment to the UK by banning their national carrier, the British Airways and Virgin Atlantic flights, in addition to British citizens from Africa. We want heads to roll.
Apparently some do. But we've been talking about this since last week. So this, for me personally, doesn't come as any kind of great surprise. The racism, the discriminatory policies, the arbitrariness of it all, the pseudoscience behind it, it's all been glaring for a week.
Yes.
So that they've put us on the red list, yes, it's more of the same, but it's still reprehensible, I have to stress. There is no science behind it. It is irrational, it is illogical, and it is prejudiced. I'm sorry. No, actually, I'm not sorry. Because we saw it as well, didn't we, with the talk from what happened when they were talking about some AstraZeneca vaccines, created better than others, which is an obvious fallacy. So this pseudoscience, this politicization has been a part of the fight against COVID-19, and that's why we're still in it. It also comes down to the way the vaccines are distributed or not distributed to African countries. It comes down to the way even Canada has now put another list of 10 African countries, including Nigeria, where they've banned even our PCR tests. Even our PCR tests are not being accepted in Canada. You have to, if you're a Canadian resident or Canadian citizen and you're allowed to enter into Canada, you need to go to a third country in transit and get a PCR test. And it just really raises that whole issue. We've talked a lot and we've been critical of our own government here in Nigeria, rightly so, about the fact that we haven't been able to produce vaccines. But it's quite obvious to me that even if we had produced the best vaccines in the world, it will never have been accepted abroad. Yeah. It's a disgrace.
Racism.
Okay, I think the outrage that has been generated as a result of the UK deciding to put Nigeria on the travel ban list is justifiable. 11 African countries, most of them from Southern Africa, already on the red list, included on the red list by the United Kingdom. And the excuse that is given by Sajid Javid, the health secretary, is that this is a precautionary measure by the United Kingdom. Different rules may apply with regard to Scotland and Wales, but what we've been told is that this is precautionary and that it is in the interest of public health. The outrage from Nigerians is based on the point simply that this is clearly, as Antonio Guterres, the UN Secretary General, put it, after about 8 countries in Southern Africa were put on that red list as a result of Omicron, that this is a case of travel appetite. The WHO has also condemned the attempt, to turn this into an African phenomenon, whereas it's a global phenomenon. Over 46 countries have already reported cases of Omicron. Many of those 46 countries are in Europe. Some of those countries, in fact, have more cases than African countries. To the best of our knowledge, Nigeria, through the NCDC, has reported only 3 cases in Nigeria. Now, Canada put Nigeria on the travel ban list followed by Indonesia, and now the United Kingdom. And in all three cases, the argument is that this is a case of discrimination, this is a case of racism, and that this is politics. It is not followed by science. Otherwise, if you were to look at the statistics, most of those countries, Israel, Hong Kong, and other countries, Belgium, Netherlands, they have figures that are on the average higher than whatever figures have been reported from Africa. So the average Nigerian does not think that this is justified. The average Nigerian believes that this is a knee-jerk reaction. And in a sense, you may say that, it was an arrogant conduct on the part of the UK authorities. The Nigerian authorities were not consulted, neither the Federal Ministry of Health nor the Nigerian Center for Disease Control. Nigeria was given only a 30 minutes notice. As a country that has both historical and diplomatic relations with the United Kingdom, that runs into centuries, I think that was a very shabby way of treating Nigeria. Now, what should Nigeria do in this particular case? We're told that exceptions can be made for persons on compassionate grounds, and those are people who are going for medical reasons. But if you are going for research, you are going for holiday, you are visiting family, you are traveling for business, you cannot come in, except you are a resident in the United Kingdom. But if you look at the UK itself, yesterday, Sajid Javid, the health secretary, reported 86 new cases in the United Kingdom, bringing the total to 262. So if anybody should be banned, it should be
UK.
It should be UK.
Yes.
Now that takes me to the next point about reciprocity, which is at the heart of international relations and international diplomacy. The international law is based on the fundament of the sovereign equality of states. No state is more important than the other. So what should Nigeria do? What should the affected countries do? We have an option to ban flights from the United Kingdom, to ban Nigeria Airways, to ban Virgin Atlantic, to insist that henceforth, until we also review this temporary ban, nobody from the United Kingdom, except you are a citizen of Nigeria or you have a resident permit in Nigeria, will be allowed to come to Nigeria. And Nigeria and South Africa can, provide the leadership in this direction. That's how international relations work. So it's not enough for our Federal Ministry of Foreign Affairs or the Ministry of Health to be wringing their hands in utter helplessness. However, there are some theories in international law who talk about the relativity in the sovereign equality of states. But here, we're talking about national pride, we're talking about national interest. No British Airways flight should be allowed to come to Nigeria until further notice. That, I think, is how to force the issue. Kenya did it, tried it with the United Kingdom. They quickly, revised their position. So if Kenya can have the balls to stand up to the United Kingdom, both Nigeria and South Africa should be able to do so. Because the politicization of Omicron, is in itself a problem for international relations. That, for me, is a big takeaway from all of this.
Yes. And just to allude to that point you have made, Dr. Abati Tundu, I think it is time for us to stand up for ourselves in this country. We can't allow this continue. This is pure racism. This is perfidy of the highest order, albeit being perpetrated by these Albions. Well, it is time for us. It is time for us to.
Go there?
I'm sorry, I went there. It is time for.
I hope our leaders will be able to summon the wheel.
It is time for us to create this ban. British Airways,
we'll take a short break. We'll take a short break.
Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise.
Good morning. It's another day and another diagnosis, really. Basic, as you'd expect, quite honestly. An article now from South Africa saying that the Omicron symptoms are milder than previous incarnations of Delta variants and COVID variants and all the rest of it. So it's basically a slightly up day for the markets. Asia Pacific took the edge off the descent in the markets there. Nikkei falling just about 0.5%, led by a 9% slump in SoftBank. South Korea's Kospi about 0.1% lower. Mainland China overperforming everybody else, really. There's thoughts that there may be some kind of government intervention in the money markets, which has pushed the Shanghai up over 0.5%. Hong Kong market's a bit of a torrid session, really. China big tech stocks being hammered, and also Evergrande's Day of Truth is lurking again. It's 10% lower this morning. Alibaba shares down in Hong Kong, and also Friday's losses in shares. It really all followed from Friday, losses in the US. But Asia stocks, as I was saying, have been chopping and changing a bit. 4 new stocks, including Chinese technology, JD, NetEase added to the benchmark Hang Seng Index. At the same time, it could be that Evergrande is on the way out of a stock index. It's losing one here. It's been removed from the China Enterprise Index, and it's got received a demand to pay $260 million on Friday. The markets are worrying now, though, that of course investors may want more and more quickly. That's the thing. Crypto, heavy selling in Bitcoin over the weekend and yesterday. It was trading about $57,000 on Friday morning. Now by Saturday, down to 43,000. It's still trading above the key 50,000 level. No real reason for this. I suspect it because the trading floors that it actually uses, the virtual ones, are so fragmented that it's difficult to get a sort of overall picture. That's my theory, at least. I cannot account for why it's dropping down, but it's very volatile. So let's do the US, and I will just remind you of those, for them, terrible figures that came out on Friday, just 210,000 jobs added. But however, that sends the unemployment, the household employment data suggested that 1.1 million jobs had been added, and that's taken the unemployment rate from 4.6 to 4.2. There are still 10 million open jobs in the United States. So a faster Fed taper and an early clearly benefit value versus growth at the moment. So basically, you'd be looking at equities because even though they've been knocked down, the futures market is actually coming up. Abrupt reversal, actually. Dow Jones up about 0.65%. S&P 500, just looking at it now, up about 0.5%. So basically, a very mixed picture as far as markets are concerned. I still think we're carrying on from last week. We're trying to get a handle on what's actually going on as far as this new variant is concerned. EU auto suppliers, let's talk about Europe, big manufacturers as far as Europe's concerned. They're saying that the transition to electric cars risks 500,000 jobs by this time of 2035. It seems a long way ahead. It's not really, and also though it may be that it's slightly balanced by the new jobs created in electrical industries, but certainly this time of transition is going to be very, very painful indeed. UK Bank of England. The thought is that there will not now be a rate rise on December the 16th. That's the next meeting of the Monetary Policy Committee meeting. Omicron has certainly made a lot of people, and certainly the rate setters, uncertain about growth in the UK economy. And that's one thing they don't want to strangle by higher interest rates. I just say this, that's the current mood at the moment. It was reducing last week and it's reduced more today. Boris Johnson, the UK Prime Minister, has ordered a de-escalation of rows with France and so on, a reset, possible new treaty coming up between our closest European neighbour. He's now convinced that Macron will win a second term. That's quite an important view from a politician, and he feels as though there may be some sense in getting some kind of entente cordiale, if I can put it like that, between France and the UK. And speaking of that, the UK is to trial a smart customs border, because many companies, both sides, importers and exporters, have been complaining about the post-Brexit red tape and so on, particularly as far as Europe's concerned. It may be they're talking about a Rolls-Royce system for moving goods. There's too much paperwork. 25% of small businesses, according to the Federation of Small Businesses, cannot cope with the new paperwork. Oil, interesting one here. Saudi Arabia lifting oil prices in Asia. Again, we were talking about what OPEC Plus had done, or rather not done, last week, and we did say that the option was open for Saudi and the other members to act should they wish to, and they've certainly done that. They're not quite sure what's going on, but it's certainly pushed the oil price up a bit. They're convinced It looks like that Omicron is a bit of a storm in a test tube right now. And gold remains forgotten. As you'd expect, you would have thought that people would be rushing towards it in these times of uncertainty. They're not. That is the global view this Monday morning.
All right, I want to talk about France and the UK. I thought Boris Johnson was very bullish when this fight started, and he thought he was going to be a quick win, just like the Battle of Agincourt, for the UK against France. But why is he backpedaling now? And it's not going to solve the problem of, one, the fishing debacle they're still having, that's trade related. Two, immigration issues, that's also, trade related. Three, the other problems he's got in Northern Ireland that he seems not to be able to bring solutions to. So what is he doing here? And secondly, I want to talk about the Omicron variant and the Bank of England meeting over the weekend and being quite very, unsure about rate rises, very nebulous outlook now. Then they have stalled on making a decision all this while. Will the Omicron variant be an alibi for them not to raise rates next year?
I don't think they need an alibi. I don't think they work like that. I think what they're doing is they are mystified by what's actually going on. And given that this Omicron thing has come as a separate and rather deadly complication to their calculations. It's the same all over the world. I don't think it's just the Bank of England. I'm no supporter of the Bank of England itself, just saying what's going on. But I think it's the same with the Fed as well. They're looking at how this new outbreak is affecting economies. I mean, now there are Nigeria, as you know, has been added to the red list this morning. As far as the United States is concerned, I think that politicians around the world are acting completely with knee-jerk reactions to what's going on. I think if they're going to be honest, they do nothing and they say, look, we're going to buy time to see where this is going. The trouble is that they don't want to get caught again. As far as France is concerned, it's our closest ally. I think the fishermen themselves had it about right. I was telling you about this about 2 or 3 weeks ago. That they were saying, look, we don't want to get involved in politics. We just want to sit down. We've been doing this for years. It's nothing to do with Brexit. It's nothing. We've been doing this for hundreds of years, working out between ourselves what is the best and fairest incursion that we can make into others' waters to fish, and so that we can all make a living out of it. That's all that they want to do. I feel that when politicians get involved, it seems to complicate things. As far as Northern Ireland's concerned, again, vastly complicated, maybe moving, slightly more positive sounds from the Irish government about that. As far as Britain and France and Boris Johnson and backtracking are concerned, look, we share, it is our closest neighbour. We depend on it for lots of things. We depend on it for power, for example. It's the most nuclear power populated, energy conscious country in Europe. There's no question about that. We will always row with the French because neighbours have disputes with each other. It happens domestically, it happens with countries. I feel as though the important thing about this is not whether one is backtracking or going forward. I think the most important thing is that a senior politician has recognise that Macron is going to get the job next time round. I think that's going to be most important, and that's what I'm taking as being the most important thing. The deal may or may not happen. I don't know. These are just the warm diplomatic words that we hear so often from politicians, and so often are damaged by future events. I think it's important that a senior politician is seeing Macron as going into another term as the president of France. That's really important. That's really important for France. It's important for immigration. He's going to have to come off the fence on that, and he will have to be, in order to win that election, he'll have to counter the right wing, which is rising up against him. But it's not getting a great deal of traction at the moment. That, I think, is the most interesting thing from all this.
Well, the cryptocurrency rout over the weekend, Friday, Saturday, Bitcoin going down by about 17%, Ether, the second major cryptocurrency, going down by 16%. Beyond the point about volatility, is there any specific reason why that is the case? Could it be Omicron? Could it be the panic over Omicron, in the market? And then secondly, yes, unemployment dropped down to 4.2% in the U.S. at the end of November, from 4.6% in October. Better than expected, because the expectation was that maybe it would be 4.5%. But there was slower than expected job growth. But Omicron was not factored in. Do you think that going forward, Omicron could have, an effect on, the figures, job growth data in the United States?
It may do. That's a very complicated question. Let's try and pick it apart slightly. As far as the US is concerned and the jobs are concerned, I just think that people in the United States have got slightly richer. I think that's the problem. And I pointed out the 1.5 million job vacancies that there still are there, and they don't seem to be being taken up at the moment. So I think we're still seeing a lot of readjustment and a lot of transitory issues here and there and everywhere. But that seems to be it. As far as I can tell, Americans are not feeling the pinch right now. I think they probably will, but they're not. And also, you've got this infrastructure plan that Biden's trying to put forward, which will supply plenty of employment. So people are actually thinking as the variant, sort of, whichever it may be, wears off or stays with us, or we come to terms with it, I think things will adjust there. So I can't answer your question. It's really difficult. I pointed out the fact that the monthly figures are down, and yet household employment appears to be up, and there are 1.5 million jobs. Go figure, as the Americans would say. It may take a few months to actually fall down. As far as cryptocurrencies are concerned, I've got nothing to say about cryptocurrencies. I have no idea why they go up, why they go down. I would have thought that if they're doing their job properly, when there is inflation rising and uncertainty, people buy cryptocurrencies. Apparently, they don't. I do not know why. I cannot answer your question. I'd rather just see it as volatile gambling, and it's follow my leader, and the real reason is probably hidden away on dark little websites that you and I would never have any knowledge about. I think that's how it's working at the moment. Once crypto, not Bitcoin, but once cryptocurrencies are adopted by central banks and face the kind of regulation that you or I would expect for our investments, then I think we can start talking sensibly about it. I have no answer to your question at all. And I don't mind that I don't either, because I feel that cryptos are just a volatile phenomenon. Good when they're going up, bad when they're going down.
Well, thank you, Michael. I would have loved to discuss Evergrande. Maybe this is the end of Evergrande, with implications for the property sector in China, even if the authorities are trying to send in a group to help manage the risk. But maybe tomorrow we'll take a look at that. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mr. Wilson. On that note, we'll take a short break. Please stay with us. Welcome back to the Morning Show here on Arise News. Our dependable Rosa Sadiri is here to give us an African business update. Good morning, Rosa.
Good morning, Tundu. Welcome back. Good morning. List, the United Kingdom adding Nigeria. There's also a pause on visa applications from countries that are on the United Kingdom's red list. There is an economic, impact here. If you think about this happening at the worst possible time, when you've got folks coming into the country, wanting to fly in, the whole quote-unquote Dirty December celebrations and so on and so forth. They're bringing in foreign exchange. They are bringing in spending potential. The hospitality sector, travel agencies, hospitals, restaurants, and so on and so forth, looking forward to the influx of people that are supposed to be coming into the country. So these restrictions are definitely going to put a dent in that. I mean, on Nigeria's side, Nigeria is also now saying that within 48 hours before boarding a flight coming into Nigeria, you've got to make sure you've got your test. So you look at the increase in costs to that respect as to what it's going to cost for people and the headaches and so on as far as coming in. So fourth quarter is, because of the festive period, is the period where you see an increase in economic activity. However, intra-travel, I mean, on the right there, you're looking at road transportation. As far as people taking, as far as interstate road transportation, that should hopefully not be impacted. There's still the insecurity, but there is, I would assume that people would be traveling now in the morning by road in order to get to their destinations by late afternoon or early evening, because robberies do go up during the Christmas period. So interstate travel, Hopefully that shouldn't be impacted. Domestic flights, hopefully that shouldn't be impacted. But as far as this red list matter is concerned on the international, I heard that British Airways was complaining about it because of the impact it's going to have. That's IAG, their parent company. So there's that. Now, on the other hand, for folks, calling for blood and saying that Nigeria should somehow retaliate against the United Kingdom, you got to remember the UK is Nigeria's biggest trading partner. The UK is Nigeria's biggest source of foreign direct investment, Nigeria's biggest source of foreign portfolio investment. The UK CDC is planning on spending billions on healthcare infrastructure to improve it across the African. So, I mean, they are, quote unquote, our big sister or big brother. It wouldn't be very wise to do a tit for tat. You saw what happened with the UAE and Emirates and also how long that took to resolve. So, the impact, and then there's, look, even beyond that, I keep harping on about cooking gas prices and what that's going to mean. Remember the reports I shared here last week. Nigerians spend more money on food during the December period than they do on Christmas decorations or gifts, as opposed to Kenyans who spend more on decorations than food and gifts, or Cameroonians who spend more on decorations. So the fact that food is such a big emphasis for us, you think of what cooking gas prices would impact December celebrations. It's going to be big. We move from that to our next discussion on fashion. So we of course saw the success of the Fashion Week in Dubai. Nigeria's fashion industry is valued at, I believe, $1.5 billion. The full fashion industry globally is 1.5 trillion, so 1.5 billion as opposed to 1.5 trillion. It's a small slice, but the potential there is huge. Gordon Emefiele spoke here, talked about wanting to have the next Arise Fashion Week at the National Theatre, which is, of course, undergoing renovations thanks to the Bankers Committee and the Central Bank. So there is a lot of potential here, and hopefully we can, the Creative Industry Fund the Central Bank has put forward, there is some support for the administration to try to get fashion, to be bigger. And this, of course, shows a lot of the potential. To the ports, the NPA, Nigerian Ports Authority, says that by 2025, they are hoping to digitize the ports. Of course, we talked here about Eto and how that didn't quite work out. But they want to use enterprise software for human resource management. They want to use tracking software for items that come in. They want to, just pretty much digitize it, and they're aiming for 2025. We've talked about the human factor here, and that has impacted ports operations. Whether they can achieve this, we shall see. And then finally, Angola and the World Bank have signed a $250 million deal to improve education in Angola for education financing. Education, healthcare, two big issues around the African continent, and at least it's good to see the World Bank still providing support.
I mean, good for Angola. The social issues are really important, and we must increase spending to those, social areas, education, health financing, and the likes. For fashion, I'm sad at that number, $1.05 billion, because we can do more than that. I think the Inditech guy, his name is Amancio Ortega, is worth about $100 billion. Yes. Over 80 billion. The Zara brand.
I saw the Gucci movie this weekend. Gucci is not a publicly traded company.
So when you look at how individuals have been able to grow brands like that, and you hear 1.05 billion dollars. I'm like, no, we should be doing more than that. And I'm grateful to the support, of the CBN putting their hands into this again to see how we can push this sector. But real quickly, I want to talk about Britain and Nigeria. You say don't call for blood. I'll still call for blood, Brutus.
You will?
This is why I'll call for blood. Look at the visas, for instance. You had a backlog. There are people that applied for British visas since May that have not been given their visas till date. Now you're pausing the process. You're having a backlog. And they put a caveat in the message there that we will not refund as long as you've done your biometrics. Okay. So you're not refunding people's money. You're holding their money down. They can't have their visas. Their livelihood have been hampered. And you are not paying any form of compensation for it. Forget all the fact that, biggest portfolio investor and all of that. No, but that doesn't mean that we should be at their beck and call every time. We just want fairness and equity because we wouldn't treat Britain that way. And they shouldn't treat us that way. That's increasingly the problem with the world.
It's not just us, it's South Africa.
No, but I speak for us. I'm not South African. I carry a Nigerian passport.
Right.
If anything is done against Nigeria, I speak for Nigeria.
True.
So it has to be said, you're holding people's passports back. No form of, you're saying you're not refunding, no form of compensation. There's a backlog. I'm sure some people that apply for visa in May will not get their visas until next year. Well, they should think about these things.
I've expended all my frustration about the blatant prejudice and discrimination behind this irrational knee-jerk reactions by several Western governments last week. So I'm all out of indignation this week. Now that it's become fashionable, I've hopped off of the bandwagon. So that's that about that.
Right.
And yeah, you mentioned one of just many, many brands. Look at the LVMH brand. And the fashion industry is $1 trillion industry around the world. And I think Nigeria, our creativity, in spite of so many obstacles, I have to really give kudos to our entire creative industry. They're so impressive, given the kind of resources that they have to work with, given so many challenges that they contend with. So Godwin Emefiele is of the CBN, his estimate, he estimated that industry to be worth $4.5 billion, which I actually think you're so right. We have a long way to go. We could do so much more in that, and I'm glad that attention is being paid beyond oil and gas.
Right.
This is extremely important. And this Arise News Fashion Week helps to fly the flag and really display. I mean, would you look at that?
Of course.
Excellent.
Great designs. Great stuff.
I'm very proud.
Let me start with the plan to digitalize Nigerian ports by 2025. Mohammed Bello Koko was speaking at the conference of the Port Management Association in Douala, Cameroon. And I think that in that paper, yes, he made all the right noises. If you go to a forum where they're talking about digitalizing the ports for ports efficiency, okay, you make all the right noise. You know, in Nigeria, we've been on this issue of port reform for about 2 decades. Under the Obasanjo administration, there was port reform. Under the Jonathan administration, we wanted a 24-hour turnaround time. Even the administration at the time had a Nigerian port task force. For a while, it worked. Under President Buhari, you had Adiza Bala Usman introducing the call-up app, what they call the ETO, the ETO call-up, e-call, electronic call system. It didn't work because of the human factor. So with our ports, there's a lot that we need to do. Technology, yes, you leverage on it, whether it's with elections or with, with the ports, because that's the future, to raise the level of efficiency. But here in Nigeria, the human factor always stands in the way. So Mohamed Bello Koko may have gone to Douala, Cameroon to say the right things. But the big question that we need to ask is that all those measures that we have introduced with the ports in Nigeria, why is it that those measures do not work? Systemic problems, the human factor, corruption at the ports, the overmultiplication of agencies at the ports. Unless you deal with those basic issues, there can be no efficiency in any of the Nigerian ports. We have to be realistic. Hopefully, another government will come in the future that will just take on the issues, beyond politics and the ego conflicts that we'll find there. Yeah, World Bank giving $250 million to Angola. Yes, World Bank prioritizes education, agriculture, financial inclusion, fine. It's important because education is, again, like technology, the future. If you don't build a population of capable Africans, then African countries won't be able to compete. Before now, the World Bank also gave a grant of $150 million to Ghana. But I think that the emphasis, which is what you can note from the Angola example, is the fact that there's going to be a focus on the education of the girl child. Yes. The girl child has been grossly disadvantaged across Africa, and it's important to see that there will be an effort in that direction. Well, as for fashion, where I cannot add anything more, other than to say that in terms of talent, Nigeria has a lot of resources, and we have many Nigerian talents who are doing very well internationally, some of them designing for Beyonce and for some of the international stars. The beauty of the effort by Arise Fashion Week is that, again and again, it provides a platform to showcase the talents that we have in Africa, provides an opportunity also to draw attention to that part of the creative industry. And to the extent that this latest event at the Expo 2020 was also in collaboration with government, will perhaps, I think, deepen the need for the Nigerian government and other governments to see the creative industry as a major tool, for economic advancement, for the discovery of talents, for the deepening of the potential of many Nigerians, particularly in that industry. And maybe that will have a knock-on effect in terms of policy options that are more forward-looking than we have them now.
For sure.
Well, thank you so much, Otis.
Thank you.